Looking upward, I surveyed the ceiling of my prison. It was some 30 or 40 feet overhead, and constructed much as the side walls. In one of its panels, a very singular figure riveted my whole attention.
It was painted figure of time as he is commonly represented, save that, in lieu of a sight, he held what, at a casual glance, I suppose to be the pictured image of a huge pendulum, such as we see on antique clocks. There was something, however, in the appearance of this machine which caused me to regard it more attentively.
While I gazed directly upward at it, I fancied that I saw it in motion. In an instant afterward, the fancy was confirmed. Its sweep was brief and its course slow. I watched it for some minutes, somewhat in fear, but more in wonder, worried at the length with observing its dull movement. I turned my eyes upon the other object in the cell.
A slight noise attracted my notice, and looking to the floor I saw several enormous rats traversing it. They had issued from the well, which lay just within my view to the right. Even then, while I gazed, they came up in troops hurriedly, with ravenous eyes, allured by the scent of the meat. From this it required much effort and attention to scare them away.
It might have been half an hour, perhaps even an hour, before I again cast my eyes upward. What I then saw confounded and amazed me. The sweep of the pendulum had increased in extent by nearly a yard.
As a natural consequence, its velocity was also much greater, but what mainly disturbed me was the idea that had perceptibly descended. I now observed, with what horror it is needless to say, that its nether extremity was formed of a crescent of glittering steel, about a foot in length from horn to horn, the horns upward, and the under edge evidently as keen as that of a razor.
Like a razor also, it seemed massy and heavy, tapering from the edge into a solid and broad structure above. It was appended to a weighty rod of brass, and the whole hissed as it swung through the air.
I no longer doubt the doom prepared for me by monkish ingenuity and torture. My cognizance of the pit had become known to the inquisitorial agents. The pits whose horrors had been destined for so bold a recusant as myself, the pit typical of hell, and regarded by rumor as the ultima thule of their punishments. The plunge into this pit I had avoided by the merest of accidents. I knew that surprise, or entrapment into torment, formed an important portion of all grotesquerie of these dungeon deaths.
Having failed to fall, it was no part of the demon plan to hurl me into the abyss, and thus a different and milder destruction awaited me. Milder. I half smiled in my agony as I thought of such application of such a term.
What boots it to tell of the long hours of horror, more than mortal, during which I counted the rushing vibrations of steel, inch by inch, line by line. What descent only appreciable at intervals that seemed aged, down and still down in pain.
Days passed. It might have been that many days passed, ere it swept so closely over me as to fan me with its acrid breath. The odor of the sharp steel forced itself into my nostrils. I prayed. I wearied heaven with my prayer for its more speedy descent.
I grew frantically mad, and struggled to force myself upward against the sweep of the fearful scimitar. And then I felt suddenly calm, and lay smiling at the glittering death, as a child at some rare bauble.
There was another interval of utter insensibility. It was brief, for, upon again lapsing into life, there had been no perceptible descent in the pendulum. But it might have been long, for I knew there were demons who took note of my swoon, and who could have arrested the vibration at pleasure.
Upon my recovery, too, I felt very, impressibly sick and weak, as if long in ocean. Fuck it. That's what I said.